It's clear to us that the value proposition of U.S. oil and gas production has never been more obvious. That's clear to us. I think it's true to a lot of market observers who are seeing that the United States is now by far the world's largest producer of oil. We're the world's largest producer of natural gas. We're the world's largest exporter of LNG. And I think that's delivered enormous benefits to our country and to global markets during a very geopolitically volatile time. Having that much U.S. energy out there in the marketplace, I think, has brought a lot more stability. And so that's a very important shift from eras past, but it's important that we have a policy environment here in the United States that can ensure that that continues to be the place in the decades ahead. Yeah, so we're not in the business of making predictions, but I know that the resource base here is enormous. The amount of investment that's going into new production continues to increase. And so I think that there's a lot of room to grow here for the United States and to meet that demand call out there, reflective of, demand is at record levels, record demand for gasoline, record demand for natural gas, right? The demand is going to be there. The question is, where's the supply going to come from? Over the last couple of years, it's a good thing that most of that production growth has come from the United States, and we expect more of that going forward. Yeah, the LNG pause from the Department of Energy is just so fundamentally misguided. We've thought it was very political from the get-go. We continue to believe that, and we think it's throwing even more uncertainty into an already uncertain regulatory process. We clearly need regulatory reform here in the United States, and misguided moves like the DOE LNG pause is yet another reminder as to how important that is. The LNG business is a long lead time business. It's a relationships business. Buyers around the world want U.S. gas, but they have to have faith and confidence that there's a permitting system here in the United States that will ensure that they get the gas that they contract for. This move, which was so misguided and so political, just injects more uncertainty at the worst possible time. So we continue to work with this administration on doing everything we can do to make sure they lift that pause and get back to issuing the permits. U.S. LNG has historically been a bipartisan thing, right? Many of the projects operating today were approved by the previous administration, but just as many that are operating today were approved by the Obama administration. The Obama administration fully recognized the many benefits that U.S. LNG provides, not just to the United States, but to our allies all around the world. And so that is a reminder as to why this decision was so misguided and why it needs to be lifted as quickly as possible. Yeah, and I think that's interesting, right? That in the year 2024, based on what we've seen so far, it's clear that both candidates, at least notionally, understand the benefits of hydraulic fracturing. And I think that's really a proxy for the benefits of the U.S. energy renaissance writ large, right? I think what people mean when they say they support hydraulic fracturing is they support the economic development that accompanies energy development. They support the lower prices that comes with energy development and all of those benefits. I think that that's a good sign, and I think it's a good movement in the direction of what we've always supported, which is that the best energy policy in the U.S. should be long-term in its nature, and it should be bipartisan. Historically, energy in the U.S. has been bipartisan. Both parties have understood the value proposition of having a robust U.S. oil and gas production here in the United States. I think that perhaps this is a signal that we might be returning back to that, and we would welcome it. Yeah, so the Gulf of Mexico, offshore production in the Gulf of Mexico is responsible for about 15% of U.S. oil production. It's about 2 million barrels per day. It's really the bedrock of our overall oil production platform. The resource base is enormous. The opportunity set is enormous. It is worth noting that production in the Gulf of Mexico is also among the lowest carbon intensity barrels anywhere in the world, right? So if the demand is going to be there, there is no better place to meet that demand than with supply from the Gulf of Mexico. Unfortunately, just within the last couple of weeks, we had a judge in Maryland issue an opinion that in a worst case scenario could shut down the entire Gulf of Mexico by the end of December, right? We think this is incredibly misguided. The ramifications could be enormous, and we're eager to work with the administration and with Congress to make sure that we avoid that worst case outcome.